Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the vast unknown. The winds are howling, your heart's racing, and every part of you is screaming to jump, to take control. But then you hear a voice, a still, calm voice that says, "Wait, trust the timing." Now, you might wonder, why would you trust in something you can't see? Why would you hold back when the world is pushing you forward? Well, I'm here to tell you today that trusting God's timing is not just a leap of faith. It's the foundation of a life that is going to be changed forever. When you learn to trust God's timing, you are liberated from the constant pressure to control every aspect of your life. This is one of the most profound shifts you can make in your thinking and your approach to life. In our world, we are taught to be the masters of our fate, to seize every opportunity, to hustle harder, and to never stop pushing. It's easy to get caught up in the belief that everything depends on us, that if we don't take charge of every moment, we'll miss our chance and life will pass us by. But here's the truth. There's incredible freedom in surrendering to God's timing. When you try to control everything, you're constantly in a state of stress, second-guessing decisions, overthinking the future, and worrying about the next step. You live in a mindset where if things don't happen immediately or according to your timeline, it feels like failure. It's a heavy burden to carry, and it can drain you physically, mentally, and emotionally. This mindset fosters frustration and dissatisfaction because it's easy to believe that if things aren't moving at the pace you want, they're not moving at all. But when you trust God's timing, you let go of that burden. You stop trying to force things into place. You stop obsessing over what's next and how you're going to get there. You let go of the timeline you've constructed for yourself, and instead you align your actions with God's plan. This doesn't mean that you sit back and do nothing. It doesn't mean being passive or lazy. Trusting God's timing is an active decision to rest in the assurance that what's meant for you will come at the right time. It's about focusing on the present, doing the work, and being faithful with the opportunities you have today without being consumed by the need to control the future. When you surrender to God's timing, you open yourself up to the idea that you don't need to know all the answers right now. You don't need to have everything figured out. This shift in mindset allows you to release the anxiety and pressure of trying to control every outcome. Instead, you focus on what you can control in the present, knowing that God's plan will unfold in its perfect time. Trusting God's timing doesn't just release you from the pressure to control, it also allows you to grow and evolve in ways you couldn't have imagined. Life isn't just about reaching a destination, it's about the journey, the lessons, and the growth along the way. When you trust the timing of God, you recognize that each step you take, no matter how small, is a part of something greater. You stop measuring your worth by the speed of your success and start embracing the process of becoming who you're meant to be. One of the most important things you'll realize when you trust God's timing is that it removes the comparison trap. So often we look at others and think we're falling behind, that we're not where we should be. We see people around us achieving milestones, hitting goals, and seemingly having it all together. We wonder why things aren't happening for us in the same way, at the same pace. But God's timing is unique to each person. When you stop comparing your journey to others, you free yourself from the constant cycle of self-doubt and frustration. You realize that what God has for you is meant for you, and it's coming at exactly the right time. In the end, trusting God's timing helps you become more present, more at peace, and more confident in the path that's unfolding before you. You're no longer scrambling, no longer striving from a place of fear or insecurity. Instead, you move forward in faith, knowing that everything you need will be provided at the right moment. When you stop trying to control everything, you open yourself up to the boundless possibilities that God has already prepared for you. When you trust God's timing, it opens doors to greater opportunities than you could have ever imagined. The problem many of us face is that we're often so focused on the outcome that we fail to recognize the power of the process. We want things to happen quickly. We want success now. We want answers now. And we want our dreams to be realized on our schedule. But the truth is, many of the opportunities that will shape your future are ones you can't rush or force. God's timing is perfect because it's designed to give you the right opportunities at the right time. We live in a world where everything is fast-paced. From technology to social media to our personal goals, we're conditioned to expect instant gratification. This mindset is dangerous because it makes us think that if something isn't happening immediately, it's not happening at all. We get impatient, we get discouraged, and we wonder why our dreams haven't materialized the way we expected them to. But when we trust in God's timing, we begin to understand that the delays, the waiting periods, and the moments when things seem stagnant are not signs of failure. They are simply preparations. God knows what's best for you, and He knows what opportunities you're truly ready for. Sometimes we want things too early, and if we were given them before we were fully prepared, we would either waste them or not appreciate them in the way that we should. You might think you're ready for a big promotion, a new relationship, or a major life change, but God's plan is far more intricate. He knows the timing that will allow you to grow into the person you need to be in order to handle those blessings. Waiting for the right moment isn't about passive inaction. It's about positioning yourself in such a way that you're prepared to make the most of the opportunities when they do come. Trusting in God's timing allows you to see things from a broader perspective. Instead of seeing a delay as a setback, you begin to view it as a setup. What might seem like a pause in your life is often the moment when everything is falling into place behind the scenes. Opportunities may be forming, doors may be opening, and connections may be aligning in ways you can't yet understand. It's easy to become discouraged when things don't happen on your timeline. But when you trust God's timing, you understand that each moment of waiting is bringing you closer to your breakthrough. Many times, the greatest opportunities come after you've surrendered control. The moment you stop trying to force something to happen and let go of your own agenda, you create space for God to work. This isn't about passive resignation. It's about actively releasing your need to control the outcome and trusting that the right opportunities will come at the perfect moment. You'll find that the moments when you think you've been held back are often the very moments that set the stage for the most significant opportunities. What's even more incredible is that when you trust God's timing, the opportunities that arrive will often be beyond your expectations. There'll be opportunities that align not just with your goals, but with your purpose. You may have had a vision for your life, but God's plan might be so much bigger, so much more expansive, that you could never have dreamed it up yourself. And in those moments, when the right opportunity comes at the right time, you'll be equipped to seize it in a way that you never would have been if it had come any sooner. This doesn't mean you should sit back and wait without taking action. Trusting in God's timing doesn't negate the need for effort, for preparation, or for taking the steps toward your dreams. It means that you are no longer scrambling, no longer pushing for something that isn't meant for you right now. Instead, you are moving forward with faith and patience, knowing that the right opportunities are already on their way. When the time comes, you'll be ready, not because you rushed, but because you trusted and positioned yourself for what was to come. God's timing always aligns with your highest good, even when it doesn't make sense to you in the moment. This is one of the hardest truths to embrace, especially when life seems to be going in the opposite direction of what you expected or hoped for. There are moments when you feel like you're stuck, waiting, or even taking steps backward, and it's easy to become frustrated or lose hope. But the reality is that God's timing is not bound by your understanding of time, and His plan is always designed with your best interests in mind, even when you can't see it yet. We often try to create our own timelines, assuming that the way we've mapped out our future is the best and only way for things to unfold. We work hard, we hustle, we make plans, and we believe that if we do everything right, success and happiness will follow according to our schedule. But God's timing doesn't always follow the path we envision. Sometimes it feels like we're doing everything right, and yet the results aren't showing up the way we thought they would. And in those moments of confusion and uncertainty, it's easy to question if what we're doing matters at all. We may wonder why things aren't happening for us the way they are for others, or why our prayers seem to go unanswered. What we often fail to recognize is that God sees the bigger picture. He knows what's coming, It understands how every part of your journey, even the difficult or frustrating times, is shaping you for something greater. When things don't happen when you want them to, it's not because God is ignoring you or withholding something from you. It's because He is protecting you, refining you, and preparing you for the things that are in store for you. His timing is always meant to guide you toward your highest good, even when you can't see the full plan. We sometimes think that waiting means that we're missing out on something or that we're falling behind, but waiting is often where the real transformation happens. During those times when nothing seems to be moving forward, God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating things in ways that we cannot see. He's aligning opportunities, preparing people, and molding circumstances to ensure that when the moment is right, everything will come together in a way that surpasses your expectation. This is where trust becomes so crucial. Trusting God's timing requires letting go of your own plans and trusting that He knows what's best for you. It means believing that His timing is never a delay. It's always a preparation for something greater than what you could have imagined. God's timing doesn't always fit our timeline, and it's not always comfortable. There will be times when you're forced to wait, times when you don't understand why things aren't happening the way you want them to, and times when you wonder if you're ever going to get the breakthrough you're hoping for. But in those moments, it's important to remember that God is never late. He's never caught off guard. He knows exactly when you need something, and He will provide it at the perfect time. It might not be when you expect it, and it might not come in the way you thought it would, but it will always come in a way that serves your highest good. There's a lesson in every delay, and in every moment of waiting, God is teaching you patience, faith, and trust. He's teaching you to rely on Him instead of your own understanding, to surrender control, and to recognize that His ways are far better than ours. Trusting God's timing is learning to let go of the need to control your circumstances and instead allowing Him to guide you toward the best possible outcome. When you surrender to God's timing, you stop fighting against the flow of life and start flowing with it. You begin to understand that even when things don't seem to be going your way, they're still going exactly how they need to. You don't have to force things. You don't have to stress about the future. And you don't have to compare yourself to others. You can rest in the knowledge that God's timing will always lead you to where you need to be at the perfect moment. Waiting isn't wasted time, it's preparation for what's to come. We often view waiting as an obstacle, something that prevents us from moving forward or achieving what we desire. When we're in a season of waiting, it's easy to become impatient, discouraged, or frustrated. We see others moving ahead, reaching their goals, and seemingly getting closer to their dreams. While we feel stuck, we begin to question if we're on the right path or if we've missed the boat entirely. But waiting, when understood through the lens of faith, is not an empty period. It is a time of profound preparation. One of the most difficult aspects of waiting is the feeling that nothing is happening, especially when we can't see the work being done behind the scenes. But God is always at work, even when it seems like things are standing still. Waiting is not passive, it is active, even if you are not physically moving in the direction you expect. During these times, God is refining you, shaping your character, and preparing you for the things that are ahead. It's easy to overlook this, especially when you feel like you're doing everything right, yet you still haven't seen the results you desire. However, God's work in your life often happens in the unseen, where He's molding you into the person who will be able to handle the blessings, challenges, and opportunities that are coming your way. When we look at the process of waiting through this perspective, we realize that waiting isn't about doing nothing, it's about becoming. You are being prepared for what's next. Whether it's learning new skills, gaining experiences, or simply growing in patience and trust, God uses waiting to develop the traits and abilities you need to thrive in the next phase of your life. If you were given everything you wanted right away, you might not be prepared to handle it or appreciate it. What you're learning while you wait, the lessons in humility, patience, resilience, and dependence on God, are the very things that will allow you to stand strong when the time comes. The process of waiting helps you develop deeper roots in faith. It teaches you to trust not just in the outcome, but in the timing of God's plan. This is a powerful lesson. It forces you to rely on something beyond your own understanding, to acknowledge that there is a greater purpose at play and that timing is crucial. Often, waiting helps you grow in your relationship with God because it draws you closer to Him. You begin to learn how to lean on Him during times of uncertainty, how to pray for peace and guidance when you feel restless, and how to surrender control when it feels like everything is slipping through your fingers. In this way, the act of waiting itself becomes a spiritual discipline, a time for you to strengthen your trust and deepen your faith. During the times when you feel like you're standing still, it's important to remember that growth doesn't always happen in visible or immediate ways. Just like a seed that's planted in the ground, you may not see the growth happening above the surface, but below there are roots being established, preparing for something far greater. If the seed were to be pulled out of the soil too soon, it wouldn't survive. Similarly, if we were to rush through the waiting process, we might miss the valuable lessons and growth that God wants to nurture in us. Waiting, therefore, becomes an essential part of your journey. Waiting also gives you the opportunity to focus on the present moment. Instead of being consumed with the future or dwelling on what's not happening right now, you learn to embrace where you are and trust that this moment is preparing you for what's ahead. It's a shift in mindset, a realization that life isn't just about reaching the destination, but also about the person you become along the way. When you stop seeing waiting as a waste of time, you start to see it as a gift, a time to grow, to learn, and to develop in ways that will benefit you long after the waiting period ends. By understanding that waiting isn't wasted time, you shift from a posture of frustration to one of faith. You no longer dread the wait, but instead embrace it as a crucial part of your journey, a season of preparation for the blessings, opportunities, and growth that God has in store for you. Trusting God's timing builds faith that empowers you to face uncertainty with confidence. Life is full of unknowns, moments where the path ahead isn't clear, and situations where you don't have control over the outcome. It's in these moments of uncertainty that fear, doubt, and anxiety can creep in, making you question whether you're on the right path or if things will ever work out. But when you choose to trust in God's timing, you build a kind of faith that allows you to stand strong even when you don't have all the answers. Faith isn't something that comes naturally to most people. It's a muscle that has to be developed over time. Trusting God's timing is one of the most powerful ways to strengthen that muscle. When you learn to let go of your own need for control and surrender to God's plan, you begin to see that faith isn't just believing in God when things are going well. It's trusting Him when things are uncertain, delayed, or even when they feel like they're falling apart. The more you practice this trust, the stronger your faith becomes, and the easier it is to walk through seasons of waiting without being consumed by fear or frustration. One of the biggest challenges people face is the fear of the unknown. When you don't know what's coming next or how a situation will unfold, it's easy to let your mind spiral into worst-case scenarios. But when you trust in God's timing, you don't have to live in fear of the unknown because you understand that every delay, every redirection, and every closed door is part of a much bigger picture. You recognize that God's plan is far greater than anything you could orchestrate on your own, and that realization brings peace even in the midst of uncertainty. Many times, people try to rush the process because waiting feels uncomfortable. Society teaches us to move fast, to get results instantly, and to measure success by how quickly we achieve our goals. But faith doesn't operate on a human timeline. God's timing is designed not only to bring you to the right place at the right time, but also to build the strength, resilience, and trust that will sustain you when you get there. If everything in life happened the moment you wanted it to, there would be no need for faith. But when things take longer than expected, when obstacles arise, or when things don't go according to plan, that's when true faith is built. Trusting God's timing doesn't mean you'll never feel anxious or uncertain, but it does mean that those feelings won't control you. Instead of letting fear dictate your decisions, you begin to operate from a place of trust, knowing that just because you can't see the full picture doesn't mean God isn't working. This shift in mindset allows you to approach life with a confidence that isn't dependent on external circumstances. Your faith becomes the foundation that keeps you grounded even when things don't make sense. Another powerful aspect of trusting God's timing is the way it frees you from unnecessary stress. When you believe that you have to make everything happen on your own, the pressure can feel overwhelming. Every decision becomes stressful, every delay feels like a setback, and every obstacle seems like a sign that you're failing. But when you truly trust that God's timing is perfect, you stop striving from a place of anxiety and start moving forward with a sense of peace. You understand that what's meant for you will come in the right way and at the right time, so you don't have to force anything. This doesn't mean you stop working toward your goals, but it does mean you release the desperate need to control every step of the journey. Trusting God's timing also helps you develop patience, and patience is a key ingredient of lasting success. Many people give up on their dreams or settle for less simply because they weren't willing to wait for the right opportunity. When you trust God's timing, you develop the patience to endure setbacks, the resilience to keep going even when progress seems slow, and the confidence to know that waiting doesn't mean wasting time. You learn that every season of waiting is a season of preparation, and because of that, you move through life with a sense of purpose rather than panic. As you build faith through trusting God's timing, you begin to see life differently. Challenges no longer shake you as easily because you know that even in uncertainty, God is in control. You stop seeing delays as disappointments and start recognizing them as divine appointments. You learn to embrace the process, knowing that faith isn't just about believing that things will happen. It's about trusting in the timing of when and how they will happen. And that trust gives you the kind of confidence that allows you to face uncertainty with peace, knowing that God's plan is always greater than your own. When you embrace God's timing, you experience peace that no external circumstance can shake. Life is filled with moments of uncertainty, challenges that test your patience, and situations that don't unfold the way you expect. It's in these moments that anxiety, doubt, and frustration can take hold. But the human instinct is to want answers immediately, to control the outcome, and to push things forward according to personal timelines. But when you truly trust in God's timing, you let go of the need to rush, and in that surrender, you find a level of peace that nothing else can provide. Most of the stress people experience comes from the fear of not knowing what's next, the uncertainty of whether things will work out, the frustration of waiting for something that hasn't arrived yet, and the pressure to make things happen on their own timeline all create a cycle of anxiety. The more you try to control everything, the more exhausted you become. But when you release that burden and trust that God's timing is always right, you remove the unnecessary weight of worry. You stop trying to force things and start allowing life to unfold in the way it was meant to. This doesn't mean you stop putting in effort or striving for growth, but it does mean that you no longer operate from a place of fear. Instead, you move forward with confidence, knowing that what is meant for you will arrive exactly when it should. There's a certain peace that comes with knowing that you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to figure out every detail or map out every step. When you embrace God's timing, you recognize that He is guiding you even when you can't see the full picture. You begin to trust that delays are not denials, that setbacks are often setups for something greater, and that everything is happening in perfect alignment, even if it doesn't seem like it in the moment. This trust allows you to release stress and stop overanalyzing every situation, because you know that what's happening is part of a greater plan. Another aspect of peace that comes from trusting God's timing is the ability to remain calm in the face of obstacles. When things don't go as planned, people often react with frustration, fear, or discouragement. But when you understand that every delay and every challenge serves a purpose, you no longer feel the need to panic. You realize that what may seem like a setback is actually God redirecting you towards something better. Instead of resisting what's happening, you learn to flow with it, knowing that every season has its own timing. This shift in perspective allows you to remain steady and unshaken, even when life throws unexpected challenges your way. Another powerful transformation that happens when you embrace God's timing is that you stop comparing your journey to others. One of the biggest sources of anxiety in today's world is the habit of looking at where other people are in their lives and feeling like you're falling behind. Social media, career expectations, and societal pressures all make people feel like they should have reached certain milestones by a certain age. But when you trust in God's timing, you realize that there is no universal timeline for success, happiness, or purpose. You are on your own unique path, and just because something is happening for someone else right now doesn't mean you've missed your opportunity. What's meant for you will never pass you by, and it will arrive in your life at the exact moment it is supposed to. This realization frees you from the stress of comparison and allows you to fully embrace your own journey without unnecessary pressure. When you no longer feel the need to control everything, when you stop resisting the process, and when you accept that God's timing is perfect, you experience a sense of inner calm that is rare in today's world. Instead of waking up every day filled with stress and uncertainty, you wake up with a sense of assurance. Instead of reacting to every challenge with frustration, you respond with patience and trust. Instead of constantly worrying about the future, you learn to be fully present in the moment, knowing that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. This kind of peace isn't dependent on circumstances. It's not about having everything in life figured out or always getting what you want when you want it. It's about knowing that no matter what happens, you are being guided by a force greater than yourself. It's about understanding that even in moments of waiting, even in times of uncertainty, even in situations that don't go according to plan, you are exactly where you are meant to be. And when you embrace that truth, you stop living in fear and start living with a deep, unshakable peace.